everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. This is my post game. I'm Kevin McPherson, and what a game it was. The Arkansas Razorbacks. Hold on. The Razorbacks, I've said it all year long. This team plays two opponents every game, period. Themselves and the other team wearing a different jersey. And man, was that the case against South Carolina. Arkansas was in real danger of going 0-2 against the worst team in the SEC. But instead, the Razorbacks build up a 20-point lead early in the second half, collapse for about 13 or 14 minutes, some big individual plays late, in concert with more self-inflicted wounds. As you get to the finish line with a 4-point win, 72-68 over South Carolina, the Razorbacks advance to day 2 of the SEC tournament, where the 8-seed Ole Miss Rebels, Ole Miss won on Arkansas's home court in Game 2 of SEC play all the way back in early January. But that's the opponent. The 9-seed Razorbacks knock off 16-seed South Carolina 72-68 today to survive and advance. Arkansas did a couple of interesting things just by the virtue of that win. Let's talk about the positives first, because there's plenty. I think Arkansas was already a lock for the NCAA tournament coming in. I don't have any doubt about that. I think this win may be enough now to assure that Arkansas will not have a play-in game and be one of those last 4 in teams. I think this was enough to probably, I won't call it a full lock, but they've probably secured that, barring something crazy with a bunch of bubble teams and bid stealers moving ahead a little bit. But I think Arkansas is probably going to be in a situation now where they're not going to face a play-in. And some people confuse play-in. They go, well, you're saying they're a lock for the tournament, so why would they have to play in? Well, to expand the field from 64 to 68 teams years and years ago, the NCAA tournament has a first 4 in group. You have 8 teams playing 4 games on Tuesday in Dayton, Ohio, and the winners of those games move into rounds out the 64-team main bracket. But every one of those play-in teams, win or lose, is considered an NCAA tournament berth. They get credit for making the NCAA tournament. So let's say that, Oklahoma ends up being a play-in team in this next situation, this NCAA tournament. Just picking a team out. Don't know that'll be the case. The Sooners on their Wikipedia page will claim an NCAA tournament bid whether they lose or win that NCAA tournament play-in game, first-round game. All right. So I think Arkansas is avoiding that. A team down to 7 rotation, and every game someone's being carried off the court. It's a hurt hand. It's something. Today it was a thumb for Big Z. But yeah, you really don't want to have a Tuesday game and then play, whether it's Thursday, Saturday, which is worse than a Friday, Sunday when you get to the main bracket. You'd rather not have to face that. Arkansas's got bigger problems than that. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but I want to go through the positives. Arkansas is up to 20 wins on the season, 20-12. This is Arkansas's 8th 20-win season in the last 11 years, and it's their it should be. They have a chance. Arkansas has a chance if it wins this next round game. It would also have to beat Auburn, but Arkansas's got a chance to at least break even against SEC teams. That hasn't happened, in going back 3 years. So there's a chance for that. But not only did Arkansas pick up its 20th win today, Kevin, my main man, thanks, Big A. Appreciate that. Not only did Arkansas pick up its 20th win, the Hogs have their first 3-game winning streak. First 3-game winning streak since non-conference play all the way back in December. If you remember, the Hogs won 6 straight games going into SEC play. Part of that was that road win at Miami. Then you knocked off, you got your first quad 1 win against a ranked Michigan team, a team still ranked. It's still a quad 1 win now. You got all of that back in early December. Then you won, you beat up some cream puffs in there, quad 4 wins at home before you got into SEC play where you started 0-5. Arkansas's now won 9 of its last 14 games, so 9-5 since that 0-5 start. A 3-game winning streak, the first one again since non-conference play to have won that many games. They had 2 2-game winning streaks before this 3-game winning streak. So that's good for Arkansas. Those are some positives. If you look at the last 6 games, Adu Thero not even finishing one of those against Missouri, but that was a win. So Arkansas has won 5 of its last 6, and 4 of those without Adu Thero, 4 of those wins. The only loss is to that South Carolina team, and boy, was it ugly. Arkansas started horrible in that game, missing layups and dunks, self-inflicted wounds, unforced turnovers, crazy shot taking from three early in shot clocks, the wrong guys taking them at the wrong time. That's how you started South Carolina, and that was a game on the road where you were down 35 late, found a way to lose by 19. And it's really the only situation that's prevented Arkansas from already being off the bubble. Had they won that game, they wouldn't even be on the bubble. I don't even know if this win completely takes Arkansas off the bubble. I just think whether they go in as a bubble team or not, they will be a first-round bye, either as a 10 or 11 seed at this point, I believe. I think they've all but locked that up with this win. And so the big damage was if you lost this game, you slide immediately probably in the projections down to a last four in, and you might survive that. I think Arkansas was a lock to get in the NCAA tournament. I don't think they might survive it. I think they would survive it, but they'd still be a play-in. I think that's off the table now. But Arkansas, I mentioned how Arkansas started against South Carolina on the road and what happened in that game. Arkansas built a 20-point lead, just dominated the first half, had that still on a roll to start the second half, built that lead up to 20 points around the 17-minute mark and just imploded. I mean, imploded. It was everything you saw in the first game on the road 11 days ago. You're missing layups, it's lazy, soft passes that are just easy pickings. You got players listening to the crowd count down a shot clock 5 seconds before it's actually and they're taking, twisting, a contorting shot that hits nothing, trying to beat a clock that still had 6 seconds left on it. I mean, everything you can imagine. Arkansas couldn't make a field goal for over 7 minutes. They finally get one. It's an offensive goal, and it was the right call. I don't know if that shot would have rolled back in or lipped off, but I mean, you had a bunch of missed and I'm not talking about contested layups either. I mean, you had Big Z get 2 free throws and should have had an and one. I mean, he blew the layup, and he knew it because you can see the facial expression when they zoomed in on him. He made both free throws, but that should have been a 3-point play. And it was in that stretch where Arkansas didn't have a field goal. I mean, I can go through the craziness going down to the final 2.5 minutes. And Arkansas finally, after Carolina comes all the way back, it was like a 26-7 run after being down by 20. It's 61-60. Arkansas takes another deep three, trying to figure out a way to score. The shot is missed. No, I think it was a three. Trevor Brazile hustles coming out of his area. What have we been saying with his improved play lately? It's not just the stats. It's not just the numbers you see. How's he getting them? He's going nuts for rebounds. He's getting out of his area. It's not just exploding up. He's moving east and west horizontally. He's not ball watching. He's attacking from wherever he is. He's using that length and his athleticism to make plays. He gets an offensive rebound, hustling out of bounds, leaves his feet, saves it all the way in over the defense from underneath Arkansas's rim. And DJ Wagner ends up taking a three and he makes it to make it 64-60 with about 2.5 minutes to go, and Arkansas built a 4-point lead. All right, South Carolina on the other end, Brazile blocks a shot right in front of the rim. Arkansas doesn't recover the ball out of bounds. He dives out of bounds over South Carolina's bench to make a play. Those are the kind of things that have equaled why Arkansas has won 5 of its last 6 games. But it's also little things and the self-inflicted wounds that become huge when they just continue over and over, why Arkansas can't even hold on to a big lead. I mean, how many games have we seen even down the stretch here? Arkansas's building 14, 16, 20-point leads. Texas at home and going to overtime. Mississippi State at home and having to hold on by a point after leading by 16 in the second half. You led this team, the worst team in the conference, by 20 in the second half and damn near lost this. So I went through the positives. It's mostly positive when you win at survive and advance in tournament time. We know that. There were some things that Arkansas did really well, especially in the first half, that it never sniffed in either half. Playing on the road against South Carolina, I thought Arkansas's front line won those battles in the first half. And even though South Carolina uncharacteristically was good from three, it's a 31% three-point shooting team. And you had 2 players, Colin Murray Boyles and a kid named Cam Scott, a freshman off the bench. Each of those guys combined had only taken or made 14 threes all year. And they had 3 in this game. Jamari Thomas, who's a good three-point shooter, around 35%, I think, was 3 of 5 today, and he had some big ones when Arkansas, but it's not just stuff like that. It's what you're doing in concert with the other team, figuring out a way to get some points. It's Arkansas not capitalizing. I mean, you had Jonas Adu and Billy Richmond each taking threes today. Now, Richmond hit his first three in his career, great. But anytime those two guys are combining for three-point attempts, that means Arkansas is letting the other team off the hook. Those weren't desperation threes at the end of shot clocks. They were just like, I want Jonas Adu heat checking 12 feet and in, 14 feet and in. I don't want him heat checking from behind the three-point line early in the shot clock. He had it going in the first half, but you don't want him taking that shot. Trevor Brazil's a different animal. He made another game, 3 straight games now with three made three-pointers a game. His whole career, he's proven he can shoot from three, and he's been efficient. So that's not a problem from that front line piece, but you certainly don't. And we know Big Z also is a guy, back-to-back games now, it's just not there for him. This is not a good matchup for Arkansas. I've said that on the front line because it kind of takes Big Z out. Nothing comes easy against South Carolina's defense. And so they're going to account for Big Z. He doesn't have he's not only not strong upper body, his hands aren't strong. And so he's, a tendency to turn it over. And some other things when you try to play two-man game with him out high, it's probably better for Arkansas to try to match up with more physical frontliners. You don't have a Duthero, who I think would help Arkansas against Colin Murray Boyles. This guy's been a double-double machine against the Razorbacks. He did it again today, had a great game. Seemed like he was playing injured as well, or he got hurt in this game. But Arkansas survives again, 72-68. I'm probably coming off a little negative. I'm going to tell you why. Because this is an NCAA tournament team now. There's no doubt about that. And Arkansas's got some good wins. By the way, Georgia somehow overnight in the net ranking slipped from 30th to 31, and UConn moved up from 32 to 30. Nobody played last night in those two, but amongst those two teams, and I'm trying to figure out how did UConn jump 2 spots. I know there's some other tournaments going on and other teams that you might have played, and there might have been, but to jump 2 spots, so Georgia gets moved off of that 30 line to 31st in net. So now Arkansas still only has now back from 6 quad one wins, going from that to now back to only 5. And you've also got Georgia against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's, 2 spots away from Arkansas, only 2 between them in the pecking order on Lenardi's bubble as the top team on the last 4 in. If Georgia picks up a quad one win today, remember Arkansas's quad value is only quad 2 in this win. If Oklahoma picks up a neutral site quad one win over a surging Georgia team, that's probably going to move that team, even if it's still on the bubble, into a bye on that bye list, last 4 bye lists at minimum, and maybe an opportunity to even get off of that and play itself off the bubble. That is a team that went 6-12 in SEC play. If you remember preseason, I said that there will be an SEC team that would be worthy, that could get in finishing the regular season in the league 6-12, winning only 1 out of every 3 games. Oklahoma went 13-0 in non-conference. It got some really good quad one wins away from home, neutral sites in non-conference. Has that big quad one road win against Arkansas. Has some other good ones in there, and is playing and beat Missouri recently, beating Texas on the road. So if OU beats Georgia today, Georgia's not going to move back in the top 30 in net before the NCAA tournament. The selection committee does its thing. Net rankings will end once the selections are done, and so Arkansas will be stuck. So Arkansas could really use another quad one win. That helps. I'm not saying we're saying they're a lock for the NCAA tournament, but I'm not 100% sure that they fully secured a no play-in. And a result like Georgia just taking care of OU today helps in that regard. I think Arkansas, again, is soundly into this dance. I said it after they beat Mississippi State. I think they locked in. I think had they lost today, they're probably uphill battle not to be a play-in, but they would have gotten in as a play-in. I think now they're probably okay for no play-in, but you just want to see some other things go well right now before you play Ole Miss tomorrow. And certainly Arkansas can pick up another quad one win and improve the resume by beating the Rebels and exacting some revenge in that game. That's a team Arkansas can beat. I'm not saying they will, but I did all this complaining early on, and what you want to say, well, Arkansas won, they're on a roll, wins and loss wise, but the patterns are what are disturbing to me, because Arkansas's best quad one win is on the road at Kentucky, a team that's going to have a really good seed, but it's a team that Arkansas matches up with well anyway. But it's also a team that went 10-8 in this SEC. That's good, and it's a strong league, but they're not one of the top tier teams in the league. And when I think about Arkansas's problems with self-inflicted wounds and not being able to even protect big leads, even though they've been close against really good teams, the difference in those games against the top tier teams is that you have too many stuff you do to yourself, the unforced turnovers, the missed layups, the busted assignments on defense, even though you're a top 20 defense in net. You held this team under 40% shooting today, but you were in peril. I mean, even after Arkansas made some plays at the end, I mentioned Trevor Brazile with the kick out to DJ for the three that built it back to a 4-point lead. He gets a block shot at the other end. Later, he gets a tip in after South Carolina has cut it back to a 2-point thing, so it goes back to 4. But at the end, he's trying to make a pass when all he needs to do is hold the ball, run clock, and make them foul you. So you're shooting free throws, and you're at that point, trying to make a pass ahead, and the ball gets deflected, and you're now in danger of being in overtime when you should have just not been in a situation where all you're doing is trying to build on a 2-possession lead. I mean, Arkansas missed one free throw today, and it was Nelly Davis, the team's best free throw shooter, with 17 seconds to go, up 6, misses the front end, so it's kind of like missing 2. And the next thing you know, Vanderbilt's still in the game. So the one miss is what I'm saying. Arkansas, this team, it's just oddly goofy and can't close out games against good teams. In this case, not a good team, but even against the good teams, building big leads even in the second half now, and they just can't wrap it up and put themselves out of peril. And I said all that negativity to get to the point, okay, Arkansas is an NCAA tournament team. And let's say you're a 10 or 11 seed and you win that first round game. Everybody says, well, I'd rather have a 2 seed than a 1 seed. This team all year long has not beaten a team that caliber. And the biggest reason is because of the self-inflicted wounds. Arkansas's identity, I'd love to say it's resilient and its resiliency. And of late, it's right there as 1A. But number one, this team plays 2 teams every night out, itself and the opponent. All right, if you think I'm being too negative after a win, I'm sorry. I feel like I've got a pulse on it, and that's my read on it. The only thing that changes that is Arkansas to be fed up playing itself and figure out some way to stop doing that or cut down on it. Because they have won 3 in a row. They have won 5 of 6. So now you've probably avoided that play-in, which makes things tougher for a team low on numbers. I don't know what happens the rest of this tournament. Arkansas would be great to knock off Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a beatable team. Even if Arkansas has the self-inflicted wounds, they might still survive that. Against Auburn, a team that's lost 2 in a row coming into this tournament, if you beat Ole Miss and get to the quarterfinals on Friday, you can't do what you too much do. And we saw it down at Auburn. Arkansas, valiant effort, led with about 3 minutes to go. Okay, someone says, no, you're not. You're speaking the truth. Okay, well, thanks for defending me. Again, I don't like being this way. I mean, we should be talking about a great win, and it is a great win in one sense, because for a team that looked dead to rights, look, I'm going to get on my own ass here. I said after the Georgia loss, put a fork in Arkansas. The OU loss after the Georgia win, put a fork in Arkansas. You were 1-6 in this league, and I just didn't think. I mean, you were down 15 against Georgia in the second half, and had a miracle 3-point play at the end to win that game. OU won by 3 in another close game, but you were 1-6, and I just couldn't see Arkansas. You had one quality win in non-conference. That was Michigan. I couldn't see it. Could not see it. And you'd played your second game in a row without Boogie Fland. I'm thinking, okay, you're down to 8. Arguably your best player's done. How is this going to happen? So John Calipari, that coaching staff, these players, you've had more attrition with the Duthero. You've had guys banged up in game and being carried off. I mean, there's a lot of credit that goes to this coaching staff, this team. I'm just saying the team's identity, I think, in the end, makes this really hard to envision them advancing to a second weekend in the NCAA tournament because of these things. So go prove me wrong again. I'm saying it right now. I don't see it. Go prove me wrong, Razorbacks. Prove my ass wrong. Tighten up. You made some great plays. Trevor Brazile has been playing lights out. Jonas Adu lights out in the first half. Got only one field goal attempt in the second half. South Carolina made adjustments. I thought Arkansas got a little soft in that second half. We saw it again, the problems that they didn't have in the first half, which they've had all year, is being sound, getting defensive rebounds, keeping opponent off the offensive rebound. One of those for South Carolina in the first half. Second half, it reminded me of the two Texas games and even the Mississippi State game and some of these other ones where Arkansas can't get a foul call on their end. They settled a lot for threes, but when they drove, there was contact. And on the other end, I thought some of those calls, it's not that they were bad calls, but not a whole lot of contact. They probably made some of those foul calls correctly, but Arkansas got 7 fouls pretty quickly and couldn't get a call on the other end. I'm not blaming this on the officials because Arkansas was atrocious. They're an implosion-ready team. Implosion ready. Turnkey ready to implode. I know I'm a little animated right now because I was getting a little excited by that first half, and then that excitement just shrank. I got so small I could crawl under my closed door to get in here. That's how flat I was. I could slide right under a closed door to get down here to do this. So that's where I'm at right now. The other good news is, though, I don't think anybody has to blink right now if you're a Razorback fan in terms of getting in the dance. I go back, if you look at Mike Anderson, yeah, he was at Arkansas for 8 years, but 3 of the last 5, Arkansas was an NCAA tournament team, and they had a run of 3 in 4 years. His last year was an NIT team, but he had a run of 3 out of 4 years they got there. We saw Eric Patrick Musselman in his 5 years went to the dance 3 times. You had a drought last year. Arkansas's going back. So when you add up all those years, 6 out of 10, now 7 out of 11, Arkansas is going to dance for the 7th time in the last 11 years. At a program like this, you expect more than that. But that's not bad considering you're on your 3rd coach in that span. And I'll tell you something else. You have a couple of Elite Eights and a Sweet 16 in there. If Arkansas can just dial down the self-inflicted wounds. I don't know that they can now that we're 32 games in and it's just a common theme. It just is. I don't know that they can tune it up enough if they won a first-round NCAA tournament game and get a 2 seed or a 3 seed. Those teams are just a little bit better. There's a reason why they're there because they don't F up when it counts, and they're playing a team with all the talent and guys with Trevor Brazile looks like a first-round NBA talent, period. Billy Richmond gets better and better. Carter Knox has been consistently good. Last couple of games, not so much, but he's been gotten better and better. Jonas Adu looks like the all-SEC preseason pick he was. DJ Wagner is playing some of his best basketball. Not as much today. There were some issues I had with DJ today, but he hits that big 3 when Arkansas hadn't hit a field goal in so long. Brazile kept that ball alive. So even him, I can't get on to him today, but I will say he took 9 threes. He made 3. That last one was huge. No free throw attempts, and partly because he took a bunch of threes. And Carolina does a good job of staying in front of the ball. They do a good job on gap help, and they're real active. And against a lazy pass team, it's a cocktail for problems at some point. Arkansas did a good job in the first half, not in the second half. But I thought Wagner bailed out Carolina some by not doing a little bit more to get downhill. And there were times I thought he tried a little bit and didn't try enough. Okay, I can pick on anybody. This guy's been playing really well, coming off a season-high 24 points. In that 1-point win, it was a must performance by him. We know he made big plays late, that big 3 with about 2.5 minutes left. Remember, Arkansas hadn't made a field goal in over 7 minutes. So, credit him. Nelly Davis ends up 6 of 7 at the free throw line, but the one miss could have been a killer. And Arkansas did the right thing defensively. You're under 17 seconds. They just let guys go in and get a layup twice. You do that because the last thing you want to do is foul a guy and give him an and one or stop the clock. Just let them do it. Yeah, the inbounds play is going to stop, and but that if it was 30 seconds left on the game clock, I'd say maybe play a little defense. Under 17 and you're up 6, let the guy go. But it was the decision making after that and the missed free throw on the front end. It's just this team, and I haven't even mentioned this. Nelly hits the last 2 free throws with 2.5 seconds left or whatever was left. Arkansas's up 3. He makes the first one. They're up 3. I can't believe I'm 25 minutes in and I'm just now getting to this. And as soon as I saw him quick push that shot, I'm like, what are you doing? It banked in. I'm like, Oh, you'll please tell everybody, tell the world you meant to do that shit when the game's over, because we all know you didn't. Why would you ever, 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 with a 3-point lead and an 88% free throw shooter, not make the last one to give a 2-possession lead? 2.5 seconds isn't a lot, but how many times throughout a season, especially in the postseason, do you see 3/4 courts or baseball pass shots that go in? From junior high to high school to college to pros, it happens at every level. Why would you do that? That one play, that one decision is a microcosm of the self-inflicted wound Hogs. Again, I'm piling on still. We're 25 minutes in. I'm thinking, what is going on here? Why does this team do this? All right, so what? I'm going to shut up now with the negative stuff. Let's go through everything, because Arkansas's advanced to the second round again. The 9-seed Hogs against Ole Miss, the 8-seed. And again, this is just now maybe working on your resume a little bit. Another quad one win would be great. Here's another positive. I mentioned 3 consecutive wins for the first time since non-conference play. Picking up your 20th win. Have won 5 out of your last 6. Here's another goodie for you. Arkansas is now 6-8 away from home. That NCAA tournament committee is going to love that. That is huge. You got 5 quad one wins as it is right now. If Georgia beats Oklahoma, I think Georgia will probably move back the top 30 in net. You'll be back to 6. So you're right now, because Georgia's back down to quad 2 for the moment, that evens you back up in quad 2 at 3-3. You just picked up another one. So now you have, for the first time this year, I believe, a winning record in quad 2 games. You're 4-3, 5-9 in quad 1, 4-3 in quad 2. That's a little bit of positive, but that 6-8 record away from home is glorious. It just really is for a team on the bubble. There are teams that are doing better than the bubble that don't have that, period. Arkansas finished 4-6 in true road games. That's great. 3-6 in this SEC, outstanding. That's fine. And 4 of your 5 quad 1 wins were away from home. That's another feather in your cap. And guess what, folks? There are no more bad loss opportunities. We've said that for a while. Carolina, quad 2 in terms of quad is not, getting beat the way you did at Carolina with their net rankings in the high 80s. If you want to point to something and say, well, that's kind of a bad loss, maybe the LSU road game, not great, but at the same time, there's still quad 2 losses. But Arkansas goes through this season with no bad losses in quad, no 3s or 4s. The resume is solid right now. I think there's an argument that Arkansas shouldn't be among, the last 4 buys. And that's Lenardi's projection. There may be some others that don't, but if you look across most of all the brackets, Arkansas was in all of them, but as a 10 or 11 seed. So that means if you're not on the bubble as one of those projected 10s, you're real close. And if you're a projected 11, you certainly are on the bubble and probably a last 4 buy, if not a play-in. So for whatever reason, Arkansas is not quite there yet in terms of being off the bubble. If Lenardi's accurate, Arkansas comes in as the second team in the last 4 buys. This win doesn't do much unless everyone around you and ahead of you has losses today. And even that might not be enough. I mean, again, if Georgia elucidates a quad 1 loss on a neutral site to Oklahoma, it's not going to be that costly. Georgia's not on the bubble right now. They are a 10 seed just outside of the bubble. I don't think that loss puts them on the bubble, and they're a lock to get in regardless if he does put them in the last 4 buys. They're getting in. I think Arkansas, with a home win to close out the regular season, took care of that. I think they're a lock, period. Today, you'd hope that this win is enough to lock them, keep them away from that play-in, no matter what happens with other teams. If other teams that are on the bubble all win games, and you got to think some of the values of their first-round wins will be better than what Arkansas got playing the 16 seed, then there are no guarantees. That's why I said I'm not fully 100% sure Arkansas's secured a no play-in scenario, but they might have. And I think they needed to win this game to keep themselves out of a play-in for certain. I think it was more likely than not, had they lost today, that they'd be one of those play-ins, maybe a play-in 12 seed. So that's where I am with it. We're almost 30 minutes in. Arkansas, big win, big lead, big implosion, big self-inflicted wound stretch there. I mean, I can't even, even the end, even that last free throw that went in and wasn't meant to go in, but it went in. I'm still at a loss, but a 4-point win, 72-68 over South Carolina. And let's not forget, South Carolina is a competitive team at home. Had beaten Clemson, a really good ACC team, not a great league, but that's a really good team. Beat Kentucky this year, in the ACC SEC Challenge, I believe. But I'm talking about Clemson did, and I think Clemson beat Duke. But South Carolina, other than that Clemson win and beating Arkansas and Texas at home, they were competitive. Only a 10-point loss at Tennessee to close out the regular season. Colin Murray Boyles is easily the best player on the court when they play Arkansas. There's no doubt about that. But as a team and total talent-wise, Arkansas should be better than 4 points against this team on a neutral site and better than a 19-point loss on the road to this team. So it's not a great matchup. I've said that before. Arkansas led by 17 at halftime, 47-30, and just did just about everything right. I thought there were some out-of-bounds plays that were really good for Arkansas. Early second half, when they were up 17 at the break, I think Carolina scored on its opening possession, went to Pringle, which was smart, try to get him going. That was the difference partly today from the road game, is he didn't have a good game. We'll go through the individual stuff. But as soon as he scored, Arkansas ended up with a dead ball baseline situation, inbounded the ball in, and they went they were patient. DJ Wagner patient, let Trevor Brazile work his way to the basket, seal off Pringle, catches the inbounds on a bounce pass, gets fouled on a made layup, and it's an and one. So you went from a 17-point halftime lead immediately down to 15, and then you hang a third foul on Pringle just right away, and you get an and one out of it. So Arkansas, it's not like there's no cerebral stuff going on. Arkansas played this matchup, which again, I don't think necessarily favors Arkansas across the board, but they played it better today, and then they just forgot all of that and went nuts like they do. They just lose their mind. That's a problem going to the NCAA tournament, I'm telling you. But we'll see again. So let's go through some of the individual stuff. Brazile. So what did he do? He had a 16-14 double-double at Vanderbilt in this 3-game winning streak. Let's just do that, because we know he had 12 and 8 against Texas. The first game without a Duthero was a huge game and a game that went to overtime. 12 and 8 in that game, but let's move on. These last 3 wins, 16 and 14 at Vanderbilt. He had 11 and 11, sat most of the first half with 2 fouls against Mississippi State, finishes with 11 points and all 11 rebounds on the defensive end, and what can be just a hacky, active, offensive glass attacking Mississippi State team. He gets 11 defensive rebounds. And I keep talking about it. Don't just look at the numbers. Think about what you're seeing, how he's getting them. He's not just high pointing over guys because of his athleticism and length. Yeah, there's some of that. He's moving from one spot and coming over here and out hustling guys. And then because he can out jump you and has all that length, even more reason why your motor should have always been that way. Should always be that way. 16 points today, 7 rebounds. He was 5 of 9 from the 3. I mentioned 3 games in a row with 3 of 6 from 3. Made all 3 of his free throws. Now, how big is that? This team missed only 1 free throw. I went through that scenario. Trevor's not a good free throw shooter. He even checked that box today. He did have a couple of turnovers, but 4 steals, a block. I mean, he was active. A box score plus 5, you win by 4. He was a little better than the final margin in 37 minutes. So he's not only starting, but he gave Arkansas 37 minutes. Jonas Adu, a monster first half, 14 points, 8 rebounds in that half. He gets another double-double. He was the one guy in a horrible blowout loss at South Carolina. Remember when Big Z had 14 and 10 on the road against Missouri in the blowout loss to cap that 0-5 start? But you looked at that, and then Arkansas starts to eventually get some success, and he starts to get better in the SEC. He hasn't been great the last couple of games, but he started getting better at that time when Arkansas really needed it. Because it's been all hands on deck. It's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's everybody pitching in at different times sometimes. But Adu, with that double-double at South Carolina, showed us, even in a bad loss, that maybe he's coming on. Well, he's had another double-double. He had one in the last game, 21 points and 10 rebounds in that 1-point win at home over Mississippi State. He had 14 and 8 in the first half. He only gets 1 field goal attempt in the second half. So he missed that, and that was the putback that Trevor and Brazile late tipped in. That was the first time they got the ball to Brazile, to Adu, in a position to score in the second half. Why, oh why? The other teams made adjustments. you got to figure that out and make it another adjustment and get him the ball. He's shooting the ball well around the basket right now. But he finishes with 14 points and 11 rebounds. So another double-double for Jonas Adu. He's had, that's 3 in his last 4 games. Again, 6 of 8 from the field. He made both of his free throw attempts in the first half. But he also had a block, a steal, a couple of turnovers. But another. So when you look at these guys since Adu Thero's been out, at that juncture, I mean, Adu had helped Arkansas, gave them some production in that win over Missouri. Brazil got a late dunk on a transition alley-oop pass in that game. And prior to that, he'd been scoreless in 2 or 3 straight games and actually helped Auburn score. But whatever, since that Missouri game and since Adu Thero's been out, these guys have been lights out. And they had to be. I mean, now Arkansas's at a point now, even though Brazil's in the starting lineup because Thero's out, but just based on Adu's production coming off the bench and Billy Richmond increasing, going from a guy that's giving you 6, 7, 8, now he's giving you 8, 9, and 10. That counts. That matters when you're down to a 2-man bench. So you start adding it together. Arkansas starting to win the bench wars after, finishing games minus 20 in bench scoring. Though all this stuff is coming together to help explain Arkansas' success. And I'm still baffled by some of the self-inflicted wins because you're not going to be perfect. You're going to have some goofy plays. You're hoping you limit that stuff to 2 or 3 a game, maybe 4. Arkansas strings together 8, 9, 10, and they come in waves. It's just, and then some of the decision making on some stuff compounds that. It's odd. But individually, you start looking at guys. We went through Brazil and Adu. DJ Wagner, 13 points a game, 5 of 12 from the field. That's not horrible, but 3 of 9 from 3. So, that's probably too many threes for him to be taking. He did make a huge one late, but he didn't shoot any free throws today. And I think the best version of DJ Wagner is being a drive, get to the basket first, put pressure on the refs to call fouls and send you to the free throw line. He's improved all year as a free throw shooter. Last time out, made 7 of 7 as part of his 24 points. And we didn't get that version of him game. Every matchup's different. Carolina is they try to draw a game out and keep Arkansas's best wins this season, they're scoring 89, 90, 92, 93 points. They scored 72 today. Last game out, they scored 53 against this team and 72 points. It was exactly what Carolina got in a 9-point win. I get that. So you're not going to have as much, there's not as much opportunity, but you got to make the most of it. So Wagner, he did have a team high 6 assists today. He's still struggling with turnovers 4. And again, with his, they're just, one of those, it was miscommunication with Big Z. I think Calipari was mad at Z, but consistently Wagner's anywhere from 3 to 5 turnovers every game. And so your lead guard, as good as he's been and one of the heroes of this turnaround, there's no doubt about that, but he's also the guy. I can name every guy on here and tell you why they're the reason why Arkansas is winning right now, but they're also the reason why these games are nail-bite as hell at the end. They're keeping the other team in it. You can say, McPherson, back off of it, man. They're winning. Okay. I'm just saying, I'm looking ahead because right now, you're in the NCAA tournament. All right. The rest of this is for whatever at this point. You want to figure out what it's going to take to win in the big dance, because that's what everybody's looking at, and I don't care what Big Blue Nation says about John Calipari and his postseason problems. This is a different scenario. He's at Arkansas now. I think he's still rejuvenated. I think he's done a hell of a job coaching. If you listen to talking heads around the country, they think this is one of his best jobs, and it's hard to argue that. But I think they've got to figure out some way, even this late, is there a combination to get them to minimize some of this stuff that's their own undoing. That's it. Bitter ex-wife talk. Yeah, from Big Blue. Yeah, great game. It's great to win. And for college basketball fans that are junkies that are on, bored on Wednesday midday and decided they want to quiet quit in the middle of the day and watch college basketball, it was exciting. But if you cover the team, if you're a fan of the team and you're paying attention to everything, you knew how important the win was. There's a lot of good things going on right now, but at the same time, they also keep showing you this blueprint where you might not get past that first weekend. I think they have the talent. Even only 7 deep, I think they've got the talent to get past the first weekend. I don't know that they've got between here Uh, I don't know that they've got enough of that to get past the first weekend, and that's unfortunate if that plays out to be what it is. I mean, this is a team, again, came in preseason top 16 in the country, picked top 3 or 4 in the SEC. We know that that's been a long gone, foregone conclusion for a long time that this team wasn't going to be that. But they're getting, in some ways, they're getting better and better. They are finding that resiliency gene. There is a bit of a, it's odd. It's an oxymoron to call this team clutch when we see what the implosions, but they're figuring out ways to finish the game out. I mean, Carolina was within a point with about 2 minutes and 45 seconds left. And Trevor Brazile made some spectacular individual plays. DJ Wagner gets the first field goal, another deep three. How many big threes has he hit in second halves of some of these games that Arkansas needed? You just go down the list. Nelly Davis today, 14 points, 4 of 13 from the field. He did not hit a three. He's been shooting well from three of late. That wasn't the case today. 6 of 7 at the foul line. That's fine, except, missing a front end hurt. It gave new life with 17 seconds left to South Carolina, and then intentionally trying to miss one that he made off the glass when you're only up a possession with a make. Even with 2.5 seconds, we see it all the time. Teams with these baseball pass shots that go in. I mean, you just don't put yourself in that. Because guess what? If you make that free throw, they're still faced with maybe a half-court shot at best. And if it hits, you're still win by a point. We got to have some locker room talks about this stuff, but have timeout talk. Somebody help me out. I'm still in my little negative mode. If you're tuning me out and dialing me out by now, I don't blame you. But Nelly, 14 points. He did have 3 steals, so he's a guy. If you look at Arkansas, only forced 2 turnovers against Mississippi State in the last game, and he had both of them, 2 steals. He's really been Arkansas's best pocket picker with Thero out, and he's been like that for a while since Boogie's been out. He's had games where 3, 4 steals, and he's just creating havoc out there. But 3 steals today for Nelly. I thought it was interesting. He and DJ Wagner both failed to get a rebound. Brazile and Adu did a good job on the glass. But DJ and Nelly out of that backcourt, 0 rebounds today. Nelly also had a couple of assists. And I say this all the time, outside of Adu Thero, he's probably game to game Arkansas's, when you look at the box score plus minus, he's up there. He's either second or first, usually, not always, but typically. Today, in his 36 minutes, Arkansas was a box score plus 12. Nelly Davis. All right, so there's that. It would have only been plus 11 if he'd have been successful in missing that free throw at the end. And then if Carolina threw a 80-foot three-pointer in, at that point he would have been box score minus 8, or plus 8, excuse me. And then if Arkansas lost by 9 or more points in overtime, he would have been a box score minus. Yeah, I know, I'm being sarcastic. I just don't understand it. Billy Richmond, I like his game, man. He gets better and better at both ends. 9 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. I think he took too many threes, but one of them went in for him. And I mean, he towed the line. There was a little bit of space. He got it to go in. Good for him. That's a nice 4 assists. We know he plays a lot on the ball and makes some good passes. A couple of rebounds, a couple of blocks, and they always seem to be big. Box score plus 3 for Billy in 26 minutes. I mentioned Big Z. He ended up with 4 points in this game. He did have 5 rebounds and a block in 17 minutes. And I really thought you could tell when Adu got in foul trouble in the second half and you had to roll with Z. Just his hands aren't strong. He can't secure the ball. Players get into his chest and get to the rim at will. He did have a big, tough rebound down the stretch. Pringle missed a couple of chippies around there with Z in his way. I don't know if Z bothered him, but Pringle didn't have a good game. He was only 1 of 6. So I'm going to give Z a little credit there. But overall, out of the front line guys, it just wasn't there for him overall. He did hurt his thumb at some point. But, I mean, 4 points. He made all 4. All of that came at the free throw line. Again, he missed what should have been an and one. You could tell by the way he reacted after that on the close-up that he was disappointed that he didn't. So I'm going to give him a little credit here with the 4 points, 5 rebounds, 1 block. And then Knox, this was a poor game for him. 2 points, a rebound. and a box score -10 in his 23 minutes. Kind of back-to-back games where both of those guys, when you look at that top 7, they're kind of been the two guys that haven't played like they have been playing and maybe given as much, but that's okay because you're maybe not going to get all 7 every game doing it, but you're getting enough from the guys that are in the top 5 in production, and at least you're getting 5 guys just about every game giving you a lot. That's huge. That's huge. So, Arkansas, let's look at it from a team statistical standpoint. Arkansas shooting nearly 55% in the first half. That bad stretch, Arkansas ends up 25 of 56 for the game, 44.6% shooting from the field. That includes 7 of 22 at the foul line, 31.8%. 15 of 16 at the foul line, only 1 miss, 93.8%. I still don't even want to talk about the free throws. 23 of 59 for Carolina, 39%. Arkansas did the job there. 8 of 23 from 3, though, 34.8%. You go, well, that's not incredible. No, but this is a 31% three-point shooting team. And you had guys, they did better than that. They were even much better than that until late. But the other problem with that is, again, you had 2 players that hardly ever take and make 3 in this game. So 3 of the 8. So, 14 of 18 at the foul line, nearly 78% for a team coming in shooting 71%. So, there were reasons that South Carolina played a little above its station when you look at it statistically on the season. Part of that is, I think, Arkansas's not a great matchup. And then you throw in the fact that Arkansas will gift you a ton of goodies in the course of a game, and you got to capitalize. And there were times Carolina did. And you can see why Carolina is now, 2-17 in SEC games. The Gamecocks late when Arkansas was up 1 and couldn't hit, they had a couple of bad turnovers or a missed layup or just something. They did. You understand why that team can't get over the hump either. But you expect that from a team that's won 12 games all year and only 2 in the SEC. So, but you don't expect that for an Arkansas team that's gotten better. Except that you've come to expect Arkansas to get in its own way. It's just like an enigma. I always say this. You think Arkansas will zig, they zag. If they zig for a while, they're going to start zagging just right away. I mean, I just don't know what's coming next. You led by 23 on the road at Texas. You won that one by 8. You led this team by 20, ended up winning it by 4. You led Mississippi State by 16 in the second half, won by a point. You led Texas by 14 in the second half at home. You won that one in overtime by 4 or 5 points. You led Kentucky. You ended up winning that one by 10. You led Vanderbilt pretty big. You ended up doing some goofy stuff late. They cut it to a single-digit deficit, but you did win that road game by 13. You had a double-digit second-half lead against Missouri. It was still an 11-point lead with about 5+ minutes to go when Thero went out. They immediately cut it to 6 and you ended up winning that game by 7. So I can point all around the season and say this. I mean, you had a big lead against Michigan. You were down big. You had a big lead, 18 points, and then you just collapsed. You imploded and had to carry that to the wire. You won it by 2. All right. So I think one of the other things is when we say all that, I think to give credit is Arkansas is finding enough of a clutch gene, a resiliency gene, to overcome it, to overcome themselves. I mean, Arkansas survives itself as much as it does an opponent when these things happen, maybe more so. So there is a bit of resiliency and a bit of a clutch factor at play. It has to be because you're finding ways to win these games nonetheless. But again, I say once you start playing these upper tier teams in the NCAA tournament, which is probably game 2, if you win round 1, you're just going to have to almost shrink that down to just a minimum to have it to think you're going to win that kind of a game. And I don't know if this team can do it, but I know I'm being repetitive. But I think the other thing for Arkansas is, as you look at Ole Miss, the Hogs with another quad 1 win that gets them to 6. And if Georgia beats Oklahoma today, I think that gets Georgia back in the right place. Now, Georgia will also have a second round game. And if it loses that, could it fall below 30? Maybe, but it'll be a quad 1 opponent. And so maybe not. The win today, if Georgia were to get it over Oklahoma, would be a quad 1 win. So, but I don't think Arkansas is now competing with anybody on the bubble other than not sliding down to a play-in. And I think more than likely they have now avoided that, but I'm not 100% sold on it. So we're keeping our eyes on it. Texas and Vanderbilt are going now. I've got the volume off, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. Big lead for Texas. I mean, the bubble teams, that's what I'm saying. Vanderbilt's no longer in the bubble. They're in. But they're in danger now of losing 3 straight. Maybe they fall to the bubble. Maybe if they get hammered today, but it's a quad win loss on a neutral site. So probably not. And they've got some really good wins. They've beaten Tennessee, one of those top tier teams that Arkansas doesn't have a win like that. They've beaten A&M, another one of those top tier. When you start talking seed line teams, Arkansas doesn't have a win like that. Again, Kentucky's no slouch, but they're not quite in that realm. They're just off. They're in that next tier where you say, okay, is that Arkansas' ceiling? Is that the kind of win that's a ceiling for this team? Has been so far. But Texas has got a chance to play itself off the first 4 out list. This will be a huge step in that direction. You know, Oklahoma, Georgia's no longer on the bubble. Oklahoma's got more pressure, even though it's a little better shape. Just at the top team at the last 4 in. Oklahoma wins this game. I think they're a lock. I don't think they have to do anything else. I think they're a lock. And that'll back up my pre-conference play after seeing what all the SEC teams did in dominating non-conference teams and big leagues. I said a 6-12 team in this league can get in. Will depending upon which team it is and what they did in the non-conference, is going to be good enough to get in this NCAA tournament. Oklahoma very well may be that team. Vanderbilt again is a team that has better quad one wins than Arkansas. Arkansas is now 9-10 against SEC teams. If Vanderbilt loses today against Texas, they'll be not 8-11 in that. But that's not really what matters. It's you just start adding up the quad ones, and then you start comparing the quad ones. Vanderbilt's got a hell of a resume. And then Arkansas's got the sweep over Texas. So that doesn't hurt you either if Texas plays its way into the field. Because remember, Arkansas right now, they're not worried about not getting in. They don't have to worry about bubble teams knocking them out, only to maybe knock them into a play-in. So from that standpoint, but if Texas is going to win this game, they're now Longhorns up by 14, 33-19. At least, if they make their way into the NCAA tournament, it's another team that you beat that got in the field, and you beat them twice. And the quad values on those were good, 1 and 2, 1 on the road, 2 at home. So we'll see. It's still 2 minutes to go before halftime. This Texas team is an imploding kind of team, just like Arkansas. We've seen that, and the lead's down to 11 now. Vandy hit a 3. Both teams shooting poorly from 3. Arthur Kaluma goes in for a smash, 35-22 Texas with about 2 minutes left first half. So we'll keep an eye on this. We're obviously keeping an eye on Oklahoma and Georgia later. I'm 53 minutes in. I'm just jibber-jabbering by now. If you've stuck with me, great. Thank you. Arkansas advances 72-68. We got our eyes on recruiting and the Nate Ament sweepstakes. Arkansas's in great shape there. The last time I was on, when I previewed this game today, I also talked bubble, but I also went through international player that Arkansas's got down in the top 4 schools he's interested in. And if he does take visits, a Lebanese player, 6'9" forward that played this past year in a Lithuanian Pro League. If he does take visits, Arkansas should get a visit according to his agent. But again, he's a kind of a skilled 6'9" guy. You know how international frontline players are. You expect that. And he's got a top 4 of Arkansas, Penn State, Butler, and SMU. Not much else to say. I'll also be covering the Arkansas State High School State Finals this week in Hot Springs. Those begin in earnest tomorrow. As long as Arkansas is in the SEC tournament, the next couple of games anyway, if they keep winning and surviving, they'll be playing at noon, which means that'll take away the day games for me down there. And I'll have to hustle from Little Rock down there to catch the night games, which I can do. That's not too far away. So, Isaiah Seeley, future Hog, I'll be putting eyes on him again in this event. It's going to probably be the biggest game, not just because it's the 6A, but those are probably arguably the top 2 teams in the state right now when you talk Springdale and Bryant boys. So that should be a great one. But anyway, until next time, we're almost 55 minutes in. Thank you for being here. I'm Kevin McPherson. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. Arkansas 72, South Carolina 68. The Razorbacks advance, pick up their 20th win, their third win in a row, 5 out of their last 6. They're now 4-3 in quad 2 games, and they're 6-8 away from home, which looks awfully good. And we're beyond a lock for the NCAA tournament. We're now saying they're awfully close to making sure they're not a play-in as an 11 seed or a 12 seed in the NCAA tournament that starts next week. Until tomorrow for a post game, Arkansas Ole Miss also tips at noon, 9 versus 8. Thank you for being here. We'll see you then.